Welcome to my channel. This scratched, worn-out Canadian 5-cent coin looks worthless, yet collectors are paying life-changing money for rare versions like it. In this video, we're counting down 3 Canadian nickels, even in bad condition, that could be worth a fortune. First up, the Canada 5-cent coin dated 1974. Even when found today, in very bad, heavily worn, damaged, or poor circulated condition, is an extremely interesting and meaningful artifact of Canadian monetary history that tells a long and detailed story far beyond its small face value. Because this coin was produced during a significant era in Canada's economic and social development, a time in the mid-1970s when inflation was rising worldwide, metal prices were becoming increasingly important to governments, and everyday cash transactions formed the backbone of daily life for ordinary people, making small denomination coins like the 5-cent piece essential for transportation, groceries, newspapers, vending machines, and countless minor purchases. This coin was struck by the Royal Canadian Mint using a composition of 99.9% pure nickel, a feature that makes it part of Canada's classic nickel coinage period and gives it a noticeably solid feel. A weight of approximately 4.54 grams, a diameter of about 21.2 millimeters, a thickness close to 1.95 millimeters, and a smooth plain edge. And because of this nearly pure nickel composition, the coin is magnetic, and over time often develops dark gray, charcoal, or uneven black toning, especially when exposed to humidity, sweat, chemicals, or soil, which is very common in coins that have circulated heavily for decades. The obverse front side of the 1974 Canadian 5-cent coin features the right-facing portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen, a portrait style used on Canadian coins from 1965 to 1989 that reflects a realistic and dignified representation of the monarch, surrounded by the Latin inscription Elizabeth II DG Regina, meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen. And in coins that are in bad condition, this portrait often shows extreme wear, with the Queen's hair detail, facial features, ear, neckline, and even the outline of the head becoming smooth or flattened, while scratches, rim bumps, corrosion marks, or metal loss may obscure parts of the inscription, clearly showing that the coin has passed through countless hands, pockets, tills, and machines over many years of constant use. The reverse backside displays the iconic Beaver, one of the strongest national symbols of Canada, representing industriousness, resilience, and the historical importance of the fur trade in shaping the country's early economy. A design created by the celebrated Canadian artist G.E. Kruger Gray, along with the inscriptions 5 cents, Canada, and the date 1974. And on badly worn examples, the beaver's fur texture, eye, legs, claws, tail lines, and the water details beneath it are often almost completely worn away, leaving only a faint outline or ghost-like silhouette of the animal. Yet even in such condition, the design remains recognizable to collectors and the public because of its iconic nature. The mintage of the 1974 Canadian 5-cent coin was very high, with tens of millions struck to satisfy nationwide circulation demand, which means the coin is not rare, especially in worn or damaged condition. And this high production, combined with heavy daily usage, explains why so many surviving examples today are in poor shape, as very few were set aside by collectors at the time, since they were considered ordinary pocket change with no expectation of future value. From a monetary value perspective, a 1974 Canadian 5-cent coin in bad condition usually carries very low market value, often close to face value, and only slightly higher for bulk collectors or world coin accumulations, because condition is one of the most important factors in numismatics. And while collectors sometimes search such coins for mint errors, like off-center strikes, die cracks, or unusual planchet flaws, significant valuable errors from this year are uncommon and even harder to confirm when the coin is heavily worn. However, the true importance and fascination of a badly worn 1974 Canadian nickel lies not in its price, but in its historical, educational, and symbolic value, as it belongs to the era before Canada transitioned to plated steel coinage in later decades, making it a reference point for understanding changes in minting technology, metal costs, and coin durability, and for beginner collectors, students, historians, or people interested in everyday objects from the past. Such a coin serves as a tangible link to real life in 1970s Canada, having circulated through shops, buses, markets, and homes, silently witnessing social change, economic activity, and ordinary human interactions over many years, which gives it a depth of character that uncirculated coins cannot replicate. And therefore, although a Canada 5-cent 1974 coin in very bad condition is not rare, not expensive, and not visually impressive, it remains a genuine historical object, rich with context, symbolism, and educational value. Interest, representing durability, national identity, and the long journey of a simple coin through decades of daily use, making it quietly but deeply fascinating for anyone who values the story behind the metal rather than just its condition or price. The Canada 5-cent coin dated 1979, even when found in bad, heavily worn, damaged, or very poor circulated condition, is a surprisingly rich and interesting piece of Canadian numismatic and social history that reflects the everyday economic life of Canada during the late 1970s, a period marked by inflation, energy crises, and growing changes in how money was produced and used. And although this coin may appear ordinary or even worthless at first glance, due to scratches, smooth surfaces, rim damage, corrosion, or dark uneven toning, it actually represents one of the final chapters of Canada's classic pure nickel coinage era, making it historically important despite its low market value. The coin was issued by the Royal Canadian Mint and struck in 99.9% pure nickel, a composition that gives it a solid, heavy feel compared to later steel-based nickels, with a weight of approximately 4.54 grams, a diameter of about 21.2 millimeters, a thickness close to 1.95 millimeters, and a plain, smooth edge. And because of its nearly pure nickel content, the 1979 Canadian 5-cent coin is magnetic and often develops dark gray, charcoal, or sometimes blotchy black toning after decades of circulation, especially when exposed to moisture, skin oils, soil, or chemical residues. The obverse, front, features the familiar right-facing portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen, a portrait that had been used on Canadian coins since 1965 and is known for its dignified, realistic appearance, surrounded by the Latin inscription Elizabeth Wed Regina, meaning Elizabeth Wed by the grace of God, Queen. And in bad condition examples, the Queen's hair strands, facial features, ear, neckline, and even the outline of the bust are often worn nearly flat, with scratches across the face and weak or partially merged lettering along the rim, clearly showing decades of heavy use in daily transactions. The reverse, back, displays Canada's iconic beaver, a national symbol representing hard work, resilience, and the historical importance of the fur trade in shaping the nation's early economy, a design created by the well-known artist G.E. Kruger Gray, along with the inscriptions 5 cents, Canada, and the date 1979. And on heavily worn coins, the beaver's fur texture, eye, legs, claws, tail lines, and the water details beneath it are often almost completely worn away, leaving only a faint outline or shadow of the animal. Yet the design remains instantly recognizable because of its deep cultural significance. The mintage of the 1979 Canadian 5-cent coin was high, with many millions produced to meet everyday circulation demand across the country, making it a very common coin today, especially in worn condition, as these nickels were used constantly at a time when cash dominated shopping, transport, vending machines, and small purchases, and very few people thought to save them in uncirculated condition. From a monetary value perspective, a 1979 Canadian 5-cent coin in bad condition generally has very low collector value, usually close to face value, and sometimes only slightly higher in bulk world coin lots, because condition plays a major role in coin pricing. And while collectors may search for error varieties such as off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, or unusual metal flaws, major valuable errors for this year are uncommon and difficult to confirm on heavily worn examples. However, the true fascination of a badly worn 1979 Canadian nickel lies not in its price, but in its historical, educational, and symbolic importance. as it represents the everyday money used by millions of Canadians during a changing era, just 2 decades before Canada would begin transitioning away from pure nickel to plated steel coinage to reduce costs. And for beginners, students, world coin collectors, or history lovers, even a poor condition example serves as a tangible link to real life in late 1970s Canada, having passed through countless hands, shops, buses, markets, and homes, silently witnessing daily routines, economic challenges, and social change, giving it a depth of story and authenticity that pristine coins often lack. And therefore, although a Canada 5-cent 1979 coin in very bad condition is not rare, not expensive, and not visually impressive, it remains a genuine historical artifact filled with context, durability, and quiet significance, proving that even the most worn and overlooked coins can carry a long, fascinating story within their scratched and faded surfaces. Next up, the Canada 5-cent coin dated 2008, even when found in bad, heavily worn, scratched, damaged, or poor circulated condition, is a very interesting and meaningful example of modern Canadian coinage that reflects a major transition in how coins were produced, used, and valued in everyday life during the early 21st century. Because unlike older Canadian nickels made of nearly pure nickel, the 2008 issue belongs to the era when Canada had already shifted to multiply plated steel coinage, a change driven by rising metal costs, anti-counterfeiting needs, and economic efficiency. And this makes the 2008 5-cent coin historically important, even if its market value in worn condition is low. The coin was produced by the Royal Canadian Mint with a steel core plated with nickel, giving it a lighter feel than earlier nickels. A weight of about 3.95 grams, a diameter of approximately 21.2 millimeters, a thickness close to 1.76 millimeters, and a plain smooth edge. And because of its steel core, the coin is strongly magnetic, a key identifying feature. And when it circulates heavily, the thin nickel plating often wears through on high points, revealing darker steel underneath, leading to patchy color, rust-like spotting, discoloration, and rough surfaces that are commonly seen on bad condition examples. The obverse front of the 2008 Canadian 5-cent coin features a right-facing portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Susanna Blunt, a more mature and realistic effigy introduced in 2003 that shows the Queen without a crown, reflecting a modern and understated style, surrounded by the inscription Elizabeth II DG Regina, meaning Elizabeth II by the grace of God Queen. And in heavily worn coins, this portrait often shows flattened facial features, smooth hair details, weakened inscriptions, rim dents, scratches, and contact marks that tell the story of long use in circulation, vending machines, parking meters, and everyday transactions. The reverse back continues Canada's long-standing tradition by displaying the iconic Beaver, one of the strongest national symbols of the country, representing hard work, endurance, and the historical importance of the fur trade in shaping Canada's identity, a design originally created by G.E. Kruger Gray and reused for decades because of its deep cultural recognition, accompanied by the inscriptions 5 cents, Canada, and the date 2008, and on coins in poor condition, the Beaver's fur texture, facial features, tail lines, and water details are often worn flat or partially missing, with the plating rubbed away on raised areas. Yet the Beaver remains instantly recognizable, even in such rough shape. The mintage of the 2008 Canadian 5-cent coin was very high, with many millions struck to support nationwide circulation, making it a very common coin today, especially in worn condition. And because these coins were widely used during a time when cash was still dominant, but electronic payments were rapidly increasing, they often show a mix of mechanical wear from machines and human handling. From a value standpoint, a 2008 Canadian 5-cent coin in bad condition generally holds little to no collector premium, usually close to face value, and its plated steel composition means it has no meaningful intrinsic metal value. While collectors mainly seek uncirculated examples, special finishes, or certified mint errors such as off-center strikes, die cracks, missing plating, or severe plating blisters, which are relatively uncommon and difficult to identify clearly on heavily worn coins. However, The real fascination of a badly worn 2008 Canadian nickel lies in its historical and educational significance, because it represents Canada's move into modern, cost-efficient coin production, highlights the technological differences between older solid metal coins and newer plated coins, and serves as a practical teaching example for beginners learning how composition affects wear, corrosion, and appearance over time. And even in poor condition, it acts as a small but authentic witness to everyday life in Canada during the late 2000s, passing through countless hands, shops, buses, and machines, quietly recording years of routine economic activity. And therefore, although a Canada 5-cent 2008 coin in very bad condition is not rare, not valuable in money terms, and often visually unattractive, it remains a genuine historical object filled with context, symbolism, and learning value, proving that even the most common modern coins can become interesting when viewed as part of a larger story about national identity, economic change, and the evolution of money itself. Please like and subscribe to my channel.